So I have been playing some Risk of Rain 2. Not a ton, but enough to see that this game is actually very similar to the Outbreak mode from Black Ops Cold War. You load into a world, gather resources, complete a primary objective, and then move on to the next world. And Outbreak is a fine mode, but there are just some things that I think Risk of Rain does a lot better. Things that, had they been included in Outbreak, would have been a big improvement, which is what I would like to get into today. The first of which being map design. In Outbreak, the maps are reused from the multiplayer. We see a lot of big, flat, open fields that just aren't all that fun to traverse. Not all of them, some are better than others, but still, they just weren't designed for this mode, and there's just too much time spent running around. There are ways to travel faster with vehicles, grapple hooks, and launch pads, but other than the grapples, I've never really found these to be very fun. On the other hand, Risk of Rain does have maps that are specifically designed for this type of gameplay. They're smaller, or at least the movement speed is faster, which makes them feel smaller, but more importantly, they have a lot more variety. You won't just be running in a straight line towards your objective. There are mountains, winding paths, structures, caves, ravines, cliffs, that sort of thing. These varied terrains make traversing the maps a lot more engaging, which leads me to my next point, the exploration. Outbreak is very reliant on waypoints and markers on the map. Sure, not everything is marked, but all of the important stuff is. I mean, they kinda have to be with how big the maps are. Because Risk of Rain's maps are designed to be explored, waypoints are hardly ever used. So you won't just be mindlessly following objective markers, you actively have to search for things. The only hint you'll get is the red particles in the air around the teleporter that spawns the boss fight, but other than that, you're on your own. Additionally, because nothing is marked, you won't really know what's out there until you find it. Even the main objective, despite always being a boss fight, is still a mystery because you won't know which one it is until you start it. As opposed to Outbreak, where the primary and side activities are revealed to you right away, so there's really nothing to discover in the world other than a few minor things. With better maps and exploration, Outbreak could have been a much better mode in my opinion, but the main thing that makes Risk of Rain stand out to me is how it handles its difficulty. Instead of being based on the number of worlds that you have completed, it is instead time-based. Once a match starts, you're on a timer, and after a set interval of time, the difficulty will increase, no matter which world you're on, and it spikes up a little more each time you teleport to the next world, which incentivizes you to pick up the pace. You'll still need to go out and find items around the world because they are necessary for survival, but if you spend too much time on that, then you'll get overwhelmed by the increasing difficulty. So you need to find a balance in order to succeed, which will be determined by skill and some luck. On the other hand is Outbreak, which provides no sense of urgency at all. You'll never have to think about whether or not you can afford to go and do one of the side objectives, and you'll never be forced to forego any valuable resources. You have all the time that you want to do whatever you want. It's all reward with limited risk, which just isn't very exciting. So yes, tailor-made maps and a better emphasis on exploration and discovery would have been good for the mode, but it's the lack of urgency that I believe is Outbreak's greatest flaw. Overall, Risk of Rain 2 is a great game. There's a lot more to it than what I've talked about here, and I highly recommend it, especially if you like Outbreak. But I just wanted to share my thoughts on the games and what differentiates the two, and how I hope that if they do Outbreak again in the future, that they do implement some of these things that I like so much from Risk of Rain 2.